All right, and let's move it on to the Boston Red Sox once again for our YouTube audience. Eric, I'm joined by Eric Zimmerman, aka the Baseball Llama, and my co-author from the Fantasy Baseball Almanac and Draft Guide. Again, quick plug here: Fantasy Baseball Draft Guide and Almanac. We have the post, basically the fallout from the Betts trade. Inside that almanac, nobody else in the fantasy baseball spectrum is going to have that in there because they publish too early. We keep our book up to date and we give you a line via promo code directly to me and Eric to ask questions and be supported all season long. So if you like fantasy baseball, check it out. It's less expensive than the competitors and it's more up to date. And you get a direct line to the authors. It's way better. I don't know why you wouldn't buy it if you're going to buy a magazine. But let's talk about the Boston Red Sox. So look, let's just get this out of the way. The Betts deal. What do you think of it?
I think honestly it was something that they had to do. They're in a tough division, and actually this would be breaking news should we, if we were actually live, but it looks like Sale is headed for an MRI on that elbow.
Oh my gosh. My fantasy baseball keeper pitchers are killing me.
I figured that. I kind of wanted to drop that on you here too.
Oh, yeah, Hero, what are you doing to me? This is a live reaction. As I have Severino for New York, which we're going to talk about later. I was all prepared to talk about that. Oh my gosh. My season is over before it begins.
There's no official word yet, but a guy who had elbow trouble all last year is now going for an MRI, which is going to be sent to so it's
Okay. Okay,
it's an ominous thing, let's say that. So as far as Betts goes, yeah, I mean they kind of had to. He's going to walk, or at the very least, you're going to sit there and get into a bidding war, and you still may not win. Right. They got some nice pieces, I like Alex Verdugo, and they didn't do bad in the deal itself.
I didn't think so either. I didn't think they did bad at all. I guess when you go from powerhouse team to powerhouse team, and you can, both teams can absorb salaries and all that stuff, and both teams are stocked with talent. I mean, certainly the Dodgers had so much talent that they had room to spare. So yeah, I didn't think they did bad. I don't think you can ever really recapture Betts, but who knows? Who knows what happens in a couple of years, right?
I'd tell you my favorite part of this whole trade is Jeter Downs. Really, really, really talented young star, but I love the idea of a guy named Jeter coming in and growing up to be a star for the Red Sox.
Yeah, that would be good.
I mean, imagine the Red Sox fans' joy of watching a guy named Jeter, named after Jeter, most likely. I don't know.
Yeah, of course. You got to think the parents are such big Yankees fans that they named him Jeter. You would assume.
And if he goes up there and torments the Yankees for a decade, I mean, Red Sox fans are going to love every minute of it. So I look forward to seeing that just from a fan perspective in general of baseball, seeing the reactions back and forth from that.
It'll be like the Seinfeld love the Drake, hate the Drake. They love Jeter, they hate Jeter. They love Jeter, they hate Jeter. I hate that Jeter.
Yeah. It's going to be a lot of fun had with that if it works out well for them.
Very good. No, that's cool. And how do you see Verdugo fitting in here? I mean, do you think he gets an uptick? I mean, you would have to think so, right? Because he's going to have less timeshare, you would think.
He should. He absolutely. As long as once he gets, they're still targeting to get him there on opening day. He's dealing with some back issues. Sure. I don't being out for an extended period, but you never really know with a back. But as long as he's an everyday guy there, and he should be, I don't see why they wouldn't. The only reason he wasn't in LA was just because they have 75 regular, everyday starters for any other team. I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
It's a small. He's going to get a boost from a smaller field there, more hitter friendly park. He's going to get to play, a handful of games in Yankee Stadium too, and he's got that pole swing, so that tiny little stadium in New York that plays like a little league field.
Right.
Verdugo should hit some there too. So I think he's going to see a definite uptick, in his power and in a lot of other areas. So yeah, I target him kind of in the later rounds, just because I think he's going to be overlooked at this point.
Sure.
But I think he's going to be a good. He's not going to be what Betts was. That's but who is? But he can definitely fill in and not have them where oh God, our season's over because we lost Betts. He's going to be a good piece for them.
Yeah, and I said this when we were talking about Dodgers. I didn't love David Price on this team, but I like him a little bit more. Just talking about a little bit more fallout. But again, we talked a little about that a little bit with the with the Dodgers when we did the last episode of this thing. So I mean, obviously, Sale, that's going to be an issue. You got other guys, Devers is another guy. Benintendi. I mean, there's a lot of talent on this team, a lot of fantasy talent. We have a couple of tier one players. Is it Bogarts or Bogarts? Bogarts. I think it's Bogarts, right? Xander Bogarts. Yeah. JD Martinez. And then again, you just have a load of guys. But why don't you talk a little bit about Devers? Because I feel like he's at a deep position, right? But I don't feel like a lot of people respect him. I kind of felt like this last year in our keeper league, I made the deal where I traded Blackman straight up for Juan Soto before the draft because it's keeper league. I wanted to get younger. Not to say that Blackman was bad, but I thought, Soto, everybody's paying attention to, Rendon basically and the pitchers, Max Scherzer and everything. It's almost like Juan Soto was being forgot about, I felt like. So I kind of tried to strike while the iron was hot, and I was fortunate enough to get there. I feel like Devers is another guy kind of like that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he had a really good year, and he does tend to get overlooked for some reason, and more so on that team because of the star power ahead of him. Betts pretty much took all the limelight, and JD Martinez was the big money guy behind him. So yeah, Benintendi gets overlooked, Devers gets a little bit overlooked, and so does Bogarts. Devers was huge. He just fell just shy of a 6 WAR season last year as a 23-year-old. And I think he's just going to take another step forward and have a really, really big year this year. He's a guy sitting on my team that's falling. I'm still kind of debating around, but I think he's falling just off my keepers list at this moment, just because of.
I know, you're loaded. Your team's loaded, and we only keep 7, and we're so starting pitcher heavy. But I don't know. This Sale news has really thrown me for a loop. You've really depressed me today. I'm sure your job is complete. How do I have 2 pitchers probably going out for the season? I mean, I know the news hasn't dropped yet, but my heart's breaking for this YouTube audience and this podcast audience. Let's move it to rotation. So obviously Price gone. What do you think about Eovaldi? Do you think he can recapture some magic there? I know he had a tough year last year. And Rodriguez, I know he's kind of your nemesis, but he did kind of take a step forward last year. And when I say he's your nemesis, it's because you've been trying to buy on him low for the last couple of years, and he just hasn't necessarily strung it together. Why don't you talk about those 2 guys?
Oh, yeah, no. Rodriguez was a guy who every time he would have a good stretch, and every time he would bottom out for like 4 straight starts, I'd drop him, and then he would pick it up again.
I know.
Before him, it was Hayward. Every time I picked him up, he would just crash and burn. So I just left him alone. I think Rodriguez is finally starting to turn that corner. I'll just be hesitant for personal reasons on my end. Right. Because it always seems to burn me. But he's a good one, and I think he's going to be there. Especially if something happens to Sale officially, Rodriguez is going to have to lead that rotation.
Yeah.
And I think he's getting to that point where he should be able to do that.
Right.
He looked pretty good last year. So I would put him up and say, yeah, definitely take a look at him. Eovaldi, what scares me about him is the injury history. He cannot seem to stay healthy, and he seems to rush back, and he gets a little hurt. He's looked good from all indications that I've seen so far in spring training, but again, that doesn't mean a whole lot either. I wouldn't be opposed to taking him as a flyer in the late rounds if pitching's hitting thin on you, because he definitely has that ability to do something, but I wouldn't hedge a lot of bets on him, at least as far as fantasy purposes.
And what about relief pitcher Brandon Workman?
Workman looked really, really good. The problem with him is going to be if he gets enough opportunities. This offense is going to keep him in enough games. So he should be able to rack up, good amount of saves. And I like what I've seen out of him. His first real year at closer, and he's already in his 30s, so it's tough. But we saw with guys like Ottavino and some others that's definitely a sustainable thing for a couple of years at least. So, yeah, I mean, he's a good look. It really just depends on how many opportunities he gets.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay, so as we do with every team, floor and ceiling for the Red Sox in 2020, what do you think?
I think the floor, realistically, would be kind of battling it out for third, fourth place. Okay. I guess would probably be the 4th place finish. I don't see them falling below the Orioles by any stretch. Yeah. The ceiling, I mean, look, this offense is going to score a ton of runs. If Sale, right now we could say if Sale comes, was able to pitch this year.
Right, if the MRI is okay and all that stuff, which we don't know at the time of this recording.
Correct. If Rodriguez takes another step forward, if Evaldi's healthy and goes through, if Perez can be serviceable, they might have to make a trade midseason. But winning a division is not out of the question for a team like this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough one. I don't see it right now with the state of everything because, again, sales questionable. And beyond that in the rotation outside of Rodriguez, it's a tough call. But they're going to score runs. They're going to be in a lot of games. So, a wild card is definitely a possibility for them. I wouldn't sit there and say there's no way I would see that happening.
Right.
So it is definitely something that's in the realm because, again, they're going to score a ton. They're going to put a lot of runs up with, Bogarts and with, guys like Chavez, who could probably take a step forward if he can limit the strikeouts. Devers is a star. Benintendi is going to keep getting better.
Right.
Martinez is Martinez. So, yeah, they're going to score and they're going to keep themselves in games. So they definitely could pull that off.
Yeah, I guess it just comes down to it kind of almost similar to my impressions in Milwaukee this year is like, yeah, I don't mind the offense so much. It's what's this rotation really going to do? And a lot of that, like you said, right now is up in the air with the injury situation with Sale. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, so I think that is enough of the Red Sox.